The days of ancient Greece and Rome, when the word citizen was a title of honor, we have often seen more emphasis put on the rights of citizenship than on its responsibilities. This quote by Robert Kennedy shows a trend that is occurring in our society today. It seems as though Americans are more me, instead of we. This is a mindset that only the American people can change. Hello, judges, special guests, and my fellow contestants. My name is Ryan Repack, and I'm here to tell you what are our most important responsibilities as citizens. To me, the word responsible means to take care of yourself, your belongings, and to take care of others' needs. This translates to citizenship by involving yourself in our government. How can a citizen participate in our government? Citizens can participate by voting in elections, paying taxes to keep our country running, obeying the laws, serving in the military, and supporting the Constitution. In addition, one can run for office. These are all obvious responsibilities of a good citizen. But the real challenge is to go above and beyond what is obvious. Eli Pariser, an internet activist, said, to be a good citizen, you have to be able to put yourself in other people's shoes and see the big picture. If everything you see is rooted into your own identity, this becomes difficult or impossible. I believe that in our country, we need to see other people's viewpoints and not be closed-minded. We as Americans need to ensure that everyone's voice is heard, whether we agree with it or not. This was the true goal of our founding fathers, and it is protected under the First Amendment. This is the true responsibility of an American citizen. The Greek philosopher Aristotle said it best: "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts." I believe that this was the goal of our forefathers. All Americans should be able to achieve their dreams, and it is our responsibility to help each other. Thank you.
For centuries, our country has been built on three concepts: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. One of these gives us the power to freely speak our minds, practice different religions, and so much more. Liberty holds a massive amount of meaning and value, but with that comes many different perceptions of its true definition. Welcome judges, teachers, parents, and fellow contestants. My name is Sarah Beth Smith, and since every viewpoint is never the same, even by the slightest bit, I will expose to you the meaning of liberty through my own perspective. By basic definition, liberty is the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by the authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. We can all agree that liberty is the result of the protection of our basic rights we're given under the Constitution. To me, however, liberty is more than just that. Liberty is the reason why many, if not all of us, wake up in the morning with the intentions of going on with the day. Liberty is the reason why we are not powerless beings living under tyrants. Liberty is the reason why we all have the opportunity to live successful, happy lives. A life without liberty is a life I don't think would be worth living. Now, I would like everyone to close their eyes and imagine themselves standing outside in an alternate world that is just like the reality you know so well. But the realization hits you that this world is even worse than what you expected. As you roam the streets, you become witness to severe racism, sexism, harassment, and utter discrimination. To your right, you stand in horror as you watch a group of innocent petitioners being beaten and rounded up by the police. You run up to the nearest officer and ask what was going on, to only be responded with, "They don't believe how our society does. Therefore, it's our job to eradicate rebels like them." Your whole body tenses in fury and you decide to speak up. But there's something stopping you. It's as if an invisible ball and chain is holding onto your vocal cords for dear life. Is this fear? No. It can't be. You open your mouth to put this nightmare to an end, but nothing is heard. In the depths of the shadows, a voice speaks. "You are my slave. in a world of silence. Open your eyes. That was a world without liberty. I know you may think that the scenario I just described is a bit unrealistic or far-fetched, but when you think about it, many countries are run in such a corrupted way like this. Based on a report from the World Atlas, many nations like North Korea, Iran, Cuba, Sudan, Afghanistan, and Venezuela give their citizens little to no freedom. The people are starving to death from chronic food shortages and suffering from outbreaks of diseases due to dismal public health. These same people have most likely been put into prison camps or experienced things like human trafficking and torture in attempting fleeing the country. The worst part, though, is that they aren't able to express their troubles for the society they live in without serious consequences. Considering the unfortunate states that these nations are in should make us appreciate our system of government even more. Although we use so many of our rights every single day without even taking notice of them, do we actually stop to realize how valuable they really are? We didn't just have liberty handed down to us without a cost. As of February 2017, about 2.1 million people are currently sacrificing their lives to fight for the freedoms that most of us take for granted. How do you think they would feel knowing what some of our fellow Americans do to use and abuse our rights? Even Ronald Reagan once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same." What you should take away from this is that as citizens of the United States of America, the least we can do for our country is to defend the privilege of the liberties we possess. Because without liberty, I wouldn't be standing up here today, voicing my opinion, nor would you all have the ability to agree or disagree with me. Without liberty, we'd all be the same blank slate of nothing. Thank you.
Good morning, fellow contestants, audience members, and judges. My name is Esther Hernandez, and the topic I've selected is, what are the most important responsibilities citizens have to our country? Right now, in our life, our main responsibility is getting a good education. As American citizens, it is our responsibility to create a system for all kids, no matter the social class, to know how to do remarkable things in the world. As future patriots, we must learn about America's history, democracy, and how to respect each other's opinions. We must learn about the community and how to take care of others in need. As students in this community, we need to understand our role as citizens in tomorrow's culture. First, I would like to discuss the responsibility of learning about our history and how to respect the opinions of others. Well, history not only teaches about wars, treaties, flags, names, and dates, we also learn about America's many different religions and cultures. This helps us understand and respect people and their differences so we can work together. I especially appreciate how one brave woman, Rosa Parks, no longer felt she deserved to sit in the back of the bus. Once students learn to understand and respect such actions, they can respect diversity in opinions, ideas, social classes, and culture. Second, understanding our history prepares us to serve our community in various ways. I'd like to give you a personal example of how my grandfather's education was responsible for affecting my life and our community. He's retired from Luke Air Force Base, where he spent 25 years as an engineer creating U.S. Air Force simulators that future fighter pilots trained with. What prepared him to take that role in our community? That's right, education. This military protects us to keep us safe from others who want to challenge our way of life. My father went to law school in order to protect the rights of citizens. My mother got her degree so she can help college students discover their strengths in order to lead productive lives. Now that is the magic of education. Finally, here's where we could put the puzzle pieces together. Understanding our responsibility to the community and the benefits of community service, and understanding our responsibility for understanding our history creates a better America. It's how each of us can become a patriot. Just imagine how our world can change if students like everyone here, or young people in other cultures, were given the opportunity to learn these things. I think the world would be a better place. Thank you.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said that freedom makes a huge requirement of every human being. With freedom comes responsibility. For the person who is unwilling to grow up, the person who does not want to carry his own weight, this is a frightening prospect. Everybody, look to your left. Now look to your right. We are the future of the United States of America, and together we can make a huge difference in the world. Good afternoon, judges, guests, and fellow contestants. My name is Frank Beard. What does every citizen in America need to do? Every citizen in America must work towards unity because the division that currently exists has led to many problems. Some of the issues we are having with other countries include war, trade disagreements, racial injustice, and just outright broken relationships. There is a battle within our borders, such as Democrats and Republicans not working as a team in Congress, and everyday citizens getting violent and intolerant while debating with each other. There are people kneeling during our national anthem, violent protests occurring, unnecessary gun violence, and other actions taking place to try and divide our nation more and more. Every citizen in America needs to learn to work together regardless of one's religious affiliations, skin color, gender, personality, or any other God-given human aspects of a person. We cannot have preconceived judgments or profiling based on a person's education level, background, or anything else. It is okay to have disagreements. However, we must unite to come up with diplomatic solutions for our problems. Most people in America ask, what will our country do for us? But as John F. Kennedy once said, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. You can work hard to be a part of the unity solution and not the divider. Division leads to internal war, drug problems, broken families, bullying, violence, and ruined communities. It leads to a negative environment and encourages violence of many types and causes our neighborhoods to be unsafe or, at a minimum, unfriendly. This discredits our country, which is well respected by the whole world, or at least it used to be. The direction we are currently going is not leading to a good place, but with you and me, us together, we can change course. Many people have immigrated to our great country in pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. I too have roots from many different parts of the world, mainly the Philippines, Russia, Germany, Ireland, and I'm even a registered Native American Indian and was born in Italy. Many of you also have roots from many different parts of the world, and that is what makes our country diverse and magnificent. This is the land of the American dream, which is slowly fading away. I challenge each and every citizen of America to stand up for what you believe in, for the improvement of our nation, but do it in a peaceful and friendly way. History tells us that people don't often realize what is really important in life until they face death. Do we really need to go through that much pain before we make changes in our life? I leave you with a few encouraging thoughts. Don't hate, don't hate, don't hate, but instead live more, love more, serve more, give more, and appreciate life more. Let us unite in peace and love so that together we can again have the greatest country in the world.
We do have chairs right up above. If you would like to come join us. There are breaks throughout the meeting. If you would like to exit, you may do so. Okay, with that being said, call to meeting to order at 6:05. Just wanted to let everybody know Mr. Sandoval is unable to make it today, and Ms. Pengarelli will be here shortly. She's dealing with a family emergency. With that being said, we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. May I please have everybody stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And again, I appreciate everybody taking the time to join us this evening. We are going to start off with staff recognitions. Ms. Ari.
Well, good evening, President Ceja Martinez, members of the board, Mrs. Pallas Thompson, and so many of our guests. I think it's so fitting that we are here tonight to recognize and celebrate the efforts of so many of our students in the 31st Annual Patriotic Speech Contest, and a great way to kick off our board meeting by having so many here in our audience join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to start tonight. So we are so thrilled to honor each year the students that give of their time, efforts to participate in our contest, and they do this for a couple of different reasons. First and foremost, to share their understanding of patriotism while perfecting their public speaking skills and demonstrating their passion for a particular person or event in history. And I know many of you in the room have attended or had students participate in that. I know many of our governing board members have had an opportunity to participate in that event. It's one of those district-wide events that we are so proud of and that has truly grown over the years. The students that we're recognizing tonight are the best of the best, taking first place in their division at the district contest. And before I introduce these students, I'd like to direct your attention to the screen for a short video that really captures the essence of the passion that these students have. If you would, direct your attention to the screens.
Liberty is the reason why many, if not all of us, wake up in the morning with the intentions of going on with the day. Liberty is the reason why we are not powerless beings living under tyrants. Liberty is the reason why we all have the opportunity to live successful, happy lives. A life without liberty is a life I don't think would be worth living.
I believe that in our country, we need to see other people's viewpoints and not be closed-minded. We as Americans need to ensure that everyone's voice is heard, whether we agree with it or not. This was the true goal of our founding fathers, and it is protected under the First Amendment. This is the true responsibility of an American citizen.
As American citizens, it is our responsibility to create a system for all kids, no matter the social class, to know how to do remarkable things in the world. As future patriots, we must learn about America's history, democracy, and how to respect each other's opinions. We must learn about the community and how to take care of others in need. As students in this community, we need to understand our role as citizens in tomorrow's culture.
I leave you with a few encouraging thoughts. Don't hate, don't hate, don't hate. But instead, live more, love more, serve more, give more, and appreciate life more. Let us unite in peace and love so that together we can again have the greatest country in the world.
Well, that was certainly just a snapshot of a few of our winners that we'll celebrate this evening, but I hope that you all will visit our district's YouTube channel. You can check out the entire contest by streaming that from your computer, so we'll hope you do that. And a special thank you to David Colley, who you know works tirelessly on our communications team and put all of that together for us. So thank you very much, Mr. Colley. We also want to thank a couple of others who are really instrumental in our contest. Mr. Thomas Gilsdorf in the Curriculum and Instruction Department, who no doubt put in countless hours planning and organizing our contest. Finally, we'd like to thank other dedicated volunteers who served as the judges for this year's competition, some of our governing board members, as well as a number of members of the United States Air Force and members from our business partners such as Glendale Community College and a number of Peoria Unified employees as well. And now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce these winners to you, and I know you're all very anxious to get to meet them. We're so pleased that they were able to be here with us tonight. Students, when you hear me call your name, if you would please stand so that we can give you a big round of applause. And after I introduce each of you, I'll invite you up here with me because I'm sure our governing board members will have some words to share with all of you. From Area 1, 5th and 6th grade winner from Frontier Elementary School, Ryan Repack. From Area 2, 5th and 6th grade winner from Santa Fe Elementary School, Azteca Hernandez. She may be sneaking in just a little bit late, so we'll hope she's joining us. Area 1, 7th and 8th grade winner from Foothills Elementary School, Sarah Beth Smith. Area 2, 7th and 8th grade winner from Country Meadows Elementary School, Frank Beard. And students, I hope you can help me. I'm sure you have some family members here with you tonight. Would family members that have been supporting these students, would you please stand so we can give you a round of applause? I have a hunch you all have the speech memorized as well, right? Just a guess. And I know we have some staff from each of these schools that are representing these winners and who have been supporting them. I think we have a number of them here, and I apologize if I can't see you behind me, but I know Mrs. Lori Little from Frontier Elementary School, Mr. John Nitschke from Santa Fe Elementary School, Miss Allison Schinkel from Foothills Elementary School, and Mrs. Christina Arias from Country Meadows Elementary School. If you're here, can you give a wave? Thank you, and let's give them a round of applause. Oh, Tammy. Miss Tammy Moss from Frontier Elementary School. So thanks for being here. Well, without any further ado, board members, I'll present to you our winners, and I'm sure you have some words you want to share with them.
Good evening. Mrs. Dohm, would you like to start us off, please?
Well, I would like to say congratulations. I think that patriotism is an issue that everybody can dwell on and think about, and there are so many facets. And I'm glad to see that so much thought was put into the speeches and the words that were spoken. I'm very proud of you. I think that your family and school is very proud of you. Thank you so much. And I'd like to know if that's one of your favorite things, speaking, getting your opinion out there. You can take it, all of you can take it, or one at a time, whatever.
Definitely speeches has been an important part of my life. I started speeches when I was in 5th grade at my school, and I kept on doing them until I'm in 8th grade now. And so I used to be very skeptical of them. I was very shy, but after doing the speeches, I was able to look at my country in a new way and as well be able to public speak and to speak my opinion in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I used to also be very shy, but I also changed my ways in looking around at the world, and that's also what inspired me to get into public speaking, because my dad also used to, he taught me how to speak louder, and also now that I'm in the 7th grade, I also am the president of student council, which that also helps me.
In my opinion, speaking is very good in our country because you get to voice your opinion, and it shows a very good point of view on our country because we can voice our opinion, and some other countries we can't do that. So.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Mrs. Connect.
I am so excited that across this country it looks like young people are really getting their voices. And you are a great example of that, all three of you. I'm so inspired because we know when we hear you talk that those are the kinds of conversations you're having in your families and your homes. And so it gives us, I think I'm speaking for everyone, gives us great hope for the future. So thank you for inspiring all of us. Here's a practical question. I think everybody gets nervous when they have to speak in public, even when they do it a lot. So how do you get rid of the butterflies? How do you try and combat the nerves?
Okay. I think a lot has to go with you shouldn't overthink. When you're speaking, you should think about just speaking to one other person in a regular conversation, and you shouldn't think of it as more than that. If you're really trying to get your point across, you don't want to think of it as like a bigger thing, as in you are speaking to the whole crowd. You want to speak as in if you would speak to one other person, and you want to get your emotions and your opinions across to that one person and to really hit them deep.
I'm taking notes. That's very good. Gentlemen?
I think that I usually just talk to myself before, and I'm like, okay, you got this. Just take a deep breath and just go at it.
Good, good.
The way I get rid of my nervousness is, since I'm a Christian, I usually pray to God, and that's what usually helps me, or
Very
always
good.
does.
3 really sound strategies. Outstanding. Thank you all for sharing.
Well, that was a great question. I would say that is great advice for the stack of guest speakers that are joining us this evening. And so I do have just one question, because you could have chose any topic, any way to go with this information. What motivated you? What inspired you to choose the topics you chose?
My topic was what are the biggest responsibilities of citizens, and I thought to myself, have citizens held on to that responsibility? And I think in our day and age, we're kind of separating from that and getting farther and farther from it. So I just think we should touch on that even more and just keep that in our civil things.
So I picked my topic of what does liberty mean to me and what should it mean to others, so that I could get my point across of how our society has kind of been, we get things a lot easier than what we used to, and we don't appreciate things as much as we used to. And I feel like expressing my opinion via liberty kind of explained about the whole view as a nation, and that even though we're given things so easily, we shouldn't take especially our liberty for granted, and that should be something that all of us can take part in.
The topic that I chose was what every citizen in America needs to do, and I chose the word to base it on was unity. I chose that word because in church we usually pray. One of the main prayer requests was unity. And so I started to think and did my research, and it appears that racial injustice is there, there's war, there's broken families, and many other things.
Phenomenal responses, and it's just a privilege to be on this side of the dais to listen to you. You could not have summed it up any better. Unity, responsibility, and appreciation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Ceja Martinez. If we could, I know we want to take some photos of these students, and so parents, now's the time. If you want to get your camera out, don't be shy and scoot over to the middle just a little bit. There you go. And say cheese. We're going to paparazzi in full force. Everyone get their picture? How about one more round of applause for these fine young people?
Thank you. And moving on to item number 4.1, request to address the governing board meeting matters not included on the agenda. As I mentioned, we do have a list. As respectful to everybody's time, there is a 3-minute timer that will be displayed on one of the monitors. Oh, I apologize. I'm excited to hear all of you. Board recognitions, Mrs. Doan?
I don't have anything this week, thank you.
Ms. Connect?
I'll speak quickly because I know people are waiting. Thank you, Mrs. Reyes at Skyview, for inviting me to read. Congratulations to the kids at Foothills who put on 12th Night, which is a Shakespearean play. Very, very ambitious and phenomenal. Thank you to Mr. Sievertson, who gathered the soccer players and basketball players to recognize them for their athletics and academics. Thank you to the public relations team for a wonderful patron tour at both Liberty High School and Zuni Hills. Thank you to Oasis Elementary for putting on a wonderful family spring festival night. And thank you to everybody who came out to the Peoria Education Foundation Visionary Awards, where we recognized individuals and organizations that help support our scholarships and our grants for teachers and students.
Okay, and I have two. One, I wanted to recognize Dr. Davidson and Mr. Savoy and all the volunteers for the Inclusive Committee. I know that you guys are starting that, and listening to our employees is a culture that we hold and value here, so thank you for leading that. The other item that the board values is employee feedback. So the survey went out, and I know we strive to hear your voices. So filling that information does drive our strategic plan from our side, as well as set goals for our superintendent. So I appreciate those who continue to provide that feedback, either via email, more importantly, so that we can track data, that survey. And finally, I had the opportunity to attend with Mr. C.J. Smith, the Peoria principal, FEMA training for multi-hazard emergency planning. A parent reached out to the governing board, connected us with the state. I was there for a week in Baltimore, Maryland. Glad to be home. It's really cold over there. 3 huge takeaways. One, not on my watch, I believe applies to everybody. Our PR director sent out the pulse, is making sure our students' and parents' information is up to date. So when we do a reunification process, we can only give them back to those on the emergency card. So I appreciate communication, following up with that, which was reiterated in that training. The second piece is the plan that we have is solid. I am confident that if emergency were to take place, we are in a good spot. Like any situation, we can continue to address opportunities, and we have a task force that is set for that. The great news is that this was FEMA grant, and anybody can go. Teachers, there are opportunities if you wanted to go. There is a process if you wanted to know for training for teachers. We are planning to set and invite the board as well as the district administration, all lenses. There is a course in June. Again, it's paid by FEMA, and it was a wonderful experience. It opens your eyes, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to go and that we are in a good place. So for that, thank you, Mr. Smith, for listening to me. With that being said, we will move on to item number 4.1, requesting items not included in the agenda. And we'll please start off with Martha and Vicky.
I'm very nervous. I shouldn't be because the kids did real great, I guess. Well, I'm here to talk about my child. You as parents, teachers, board members. My child was hit February the 2nd by an older kid in the restroom. He was punched 3 times. But the matter is that the way that things were handled were not the right ones. I believe that they should have put me first when I went into the office, not made me wait that long. They should have go ahead and told all the teachers as a memo what was going on. This was an 8th grader, we think, or 7th grader that did this to a 3rd grader. He's 8. He's a very caring, very outstanding kid. And I'm here to say that we need different procedures for the schools. We need at least a window in every school that's tinted so the kids can come and not be afraid to point out who did it. My kid didn't say anything until my oldest daughter noticed. And the next day when we went, and after half a day, and he saw the child, he didn't say anything because he was told that if he said anything, he was gonna get it again. I believe that we are the voices for our kids. This, my daughter wrote it for me, but I guess it's very emotional, even through a month. They didn't get the kid, and the kid that was pointed, I guess it was a real good student, and I didn't hear what happened to him. I was expecting at least a week of suspension, but nothing got done, so for me it was a slap in the face as a parent. My child's not able to go to the restroom, to the cafeteria no more because he's afraid. The first week, getting out of school, he couldn't walk to after school because he was so afraid. He waited 10 minutes for all the kids to get up. And I used to go there every day and ask what was going on, if something was being handled, and it wasn't. He changed his stories because after Thursday, that happened, on Friday, then the weekend. Nothing got solved. I'm voicing my voice for my child and every child. I didn't notice how much of bullying this is. If we don't do nothing right now with little kids, first, second, third, fifth, 7th, 8th graders, look what's going around us. In every state, we're seeing shootings. We're seeing kids getting killed. This shouldn't be happening to us, not to our kids.
I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and we will follow up with the administration.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah.
The next is Rona Cohensit, and then following Alejandra Cisneros. Okay, so this is
Good evening, President Ceja Martinez and board members, staff, colleagues. You're all much bigger than my kids. Ryan, I'm nervous. Let me think, what was that trick? Okay. I'm here because my question is, we as teachers have been asked to sign our contracts prior to the budget being complete. And I'm a little apprehensive because there's nothing in this contract that I received guaranteeing me anything for my salary next year. It very clearly states what I'm making this year, but then it says if the board, votes differently for our salary compensation, see, I told you I'm nervous, for our salary compensation for next year, that's what stands. And I've been with the district 12 years. I've taken a big, huge pay cut when we got rid of career ladders. I took a big, huge 3% pay cut when we got hit really hard from the state, budget cuts. But I teach because I love it and I'm passionate about it and I love the difference that I make for my children. But I'm getting closer to retirement and I have to consider the fact that if I take another pay cut, that affects me forever, for the rest of my life. And I'm just curious if the budget is going to be complete before I sign my contract on March 30th, or am I just signing a blank contract saying I agree to work for whatever you guys are willing to pay me? Do I get an answer or no?
at this time, because the item is not on the agenda.
Okay.
I do have our CFO, Mr. Hicks.
Hi, how you doing, Ken?
Who is chairing?
I was actually Ken's daughter for kindergarten teacher, so.
Who is chairing the budget committee, and he is actively writing notes.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Connect.
I was just going to say maybe a response to all staff members would be an efficient way to relay that, what's happening. Thank you.
Victoria Hernandez. Just a moment, just a brief moment.
If you're ready. Check, check.
I am here to address of a serious issue that has been happening. Teachers are not getting paid enough, or they're not even getting recognized. When they are not getting recognized, it shows nothing to them. It makes them feel unappreciated. This is something serious, and it should not be left. When teachers don't get appreciated, they can feel left out, they don't feel welcomed or something like that. Everything should, be nice and have them do something like an assembly or a prep so that they can be recognized and for their outstanding efforts, because they work a long time and it's not fair to them. Sometimes they can work to 7 to 6 and it won't be fair to them because who knows, they might have kids or family to attend to, and they won't be able to because they have to do schoolwork. That is not fair for them. Put yourself in their place. If a family crisis happens, you probably won't be able to go. It's not fair to them. And this should not be happening. It's not fair for them. Even though they get paid, it's not enough. One of my teachers has a little daughter. She says it's barely enough for her to feed her daughter. It is not fair. At least they should get recognized so they can feel appreciated in every way, or a smaller amount of payment, because I feel that's really important for them to be recognized. Every teacher is a great teacher. My teachers have been the best teachers. They have helped me through every possible way. All teachers are recognized and should be, and it's not fair to them. These teachers are great, responsible, caring, and loving. I have teachers that have cared so much throughout my years and helping me. I was not good at math, and my math teacher, she helped me, and I got better at it. These teachers will go through everything to just help you understand it. It's not fair to them. Teachers can do such great things and not even be recognized for it. I'm glad to have all the teachers in my life that they're great and compassionate about their work. They are not recognized or anything like that. They should be recognized. That's what I'm here to say, because they are such great people. They will help. And in my opinion, they should be recognized and heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Curtis Airley, hourly, you have big shoes to fill.
I'm not following that. I mean, nothing else needs to be said. My name's Curtis Airley. I live at 1805 West Salter Drive, Sun City, Arizona, 85373. I'm here tonight to address really our community. And I wasn't going to speak, but I look around the room and I was greeted when I walked in by one of my former students who's now a principal here. I'm looking around the wall there, and there's at least 2 more of my students that are teachers, student teachers who've taught in my department and worked at my school, board members who were hired into education in Arizona by my mom. And I just want to let y'all know, I forgot to mention the teachers that have taught my students, or my kids, my own kids. Members of our community who teach with me, but also serve in the Sunday school and youth group ministry of my kids' church and give their time. And I've taught people's kids in here. And we're here tonight, and I see red all over the room, and I appreciate the fact that the board members that are in red, and we're here as Red for Ed. There's an organic movement moving across our state of teachers, parents, students, administrators, board members, community members who've had enough of the deprioritization of our public schools. And I'm hoping that we as a district and as a community will be united with the rest of our state in trying to bring about change. My father was a public school teacher here in Arizona. My mother was my aunts, my uncles, all of them taught in the public schools. 4 generations of public school educators in math and science. When my father started in the late 60s, he made somewhere around $7,000 on his first contract. When he retired in 1991, his W-2 form, which I carry a picture of, is $52,000. That's a multiple of almost 7 times over. Y'all would have to write me a contract for about $130,000 in the next 2 or 3 years for me to come anywhere close. People might be making tax when they contribute their tax credit to a private school. We have to change. We have to take a lesson from every one of those kids that talked to us about democracy and how democracy is supposed to work, and we must come together and we must take the principles of unity that we heard about, the principles of liberty and the right to assemble and to speak our minds and to be able to express to our political leaders at our state level that change must happen and must happen now. So thank you for allowing me to get just a little bit more out.
Next, Alejandra Cisneros. My apologies, my papers got mixed up. And then following, Justin McClellan.
Hi, my name is Alejandra Cisneros. There's some issues that I would like to discuss about my children's school at Peoria Elementary as a parent, alumni, and a volunteer. I request to see principal or vice principal. We are always told they're not available. Aren't parents supposed to come first? When was I able to discuss issues with the principal? A couple of those issues has stated he was unaware of the situation. When I was told by other parents that they have spoken to him about the same issues, such as students' behaviors in class, there are times when he has told me one thing and then I find out later that he had said something else. Just recently, my son was pushed and shoved by a staff member and nothing was done about it. Peoria Elementary has changed and not for the better. 7th and 8th graders have no respect for teachers and staff. 6th graders are not disrespectful as the 7th and 8th graders, but are observing the behavior of the 7th and 8th graders. Have students that talk back and cuss at teachers and staff. I've heard of teachers hitting students and nothing was or has been done. When teachers refer those students to administrative personnel, they are sent to other classrooms, making them another teacher's problems, or they sit in the front office making it the office assistants' principals. Students are able to destroy property with no consequences, such as decorations on the teachers' doors or celebrating their birthday. I had a teacher request not to put up decorations because she did not want it to see it torn apart. When discussed with administrative personnel, I was told that there is nothing they could do. Students should respect someone else's property, whether it is schools or other organization. If these actions are dismissed, what kind of message are we sending to these citizens? Often there are no consequences for the students who hurt, tease, bully, or interrupt the students. Who are punished are the ones defending themselves. I know at least 2 parents who have stated that the child was suspended because they were defending themselves. Another student has pushed or hit them first. How is this fair?
I do apologize, we cannot respond, but we'll have administration follow up. Mr. McClellan, thank you, I do apologize.
My name is Justin McClellan. I've been teaching in the district for 15 years, and I decided that this would be a great opportunity for me to take my first stab at speaking in front of you. And I kind of wanted to share my story with you, and I think back to my first year teaching when I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, straight out of college, ready to conquer the world. And I received my first contract, and it was ballpark, I can't really remember, it was a while ago, so it was like $32,000. And I was thinking I had everything to gain, like, holy cow, here we go. I was then just offered my contract for this year, and that number was $43,000. And then I look at it without the 301 money and everything there, the district's responsibility is 39. And to think that after 15 years that that's my value was just a point of reflection for me. And I started thinking about what's happened in that period of time. And I think about 15 years ago where I had a lot of wants but not a lot of needs. And now I have a wife and I have 3 small kids, and now I have a lot of needs, not necessarily a lot of wants. And in education, you have a lot of opportunities where you can make a little money on the side doing different things for the school, but it's not necessarily the best and most effective way of earning income. So about 2 years ago, I entertained the possibility of going into the private sector as a side job. After a couple months of being there, I was offered a full contract, and they've been pushing me every few months and offering me a job. And this year, after pushing it away, after 2 years, I have elected to accept that contract and not renew my contract with the Peoria Unified School District. And that's disappointing for me because I'm very passionate about teaching. I feel like I make an impact every day in the classroom, and an impact that I can see when the kids come back and you see where they are. So I just felt like I needed to express that because I do feel, and I understand there's a lot of things that are out of your control as board members, and there's a lot of things that have happened in the past as far as like the step system and being frozen that has limited, but I feel like at some point there are certain things that are in your control. And I urge you to kind of squeeze every nickel and dime in prioritizing those resources to teachers' salary. Obviously, it's not something that's potentially going to be benefiting me, but I hope it benefits my kids because I live in this district. And I hope that the quality of teacher that keeps coming back and wants to come to this district is there. I think about some of the different resources and opportunities that there are. I think we change our curriculum every single year, and we develop the curriculum every single year. And the hundreds, thousands of man hours that are used to doing that, if we're in a budget crisis, how do we afford that luxury of revisiting that every year? I think about the technologies and the systems that are put in place that we adopt one year and then we discard the following year. If we're in financial crisis, how can we afford to do those things? I think about some of the luxuries, even some of the contract that was offered to our superintendent saying that we're going to pay even though that relationship's been severed. I think that's a luxury to do that. And those are all things that I get concerned about. And I also think about the expenses I see in my classroom, tons of new technology, which is absolutely necessary. And I think about transportation, new buses and things like that. But you could give me the most dilapidated classroom and you give me a teacher that inspires, learning will happen. So that needs to be the prioritized item that we're looking at. I think when we talk about resources, just to make sure, we talk about funds. Where are the funds? And they're in this fund or that fund. It can't be used for this. There's got to be a way to dictate that. So I guess in closing, I kind of think that I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm disappointed that I was forced to make this decision. It's a decision I fought long and hard not to make. And I felt like this was a battle of attrition, and I feel like I lost because I wasn't able to do and continue to do the job that I love and I'm passionate about. Now, I know you cannot comment to me, but my email is available, and if you have any comments, I would be more than willing to entertain them. So if there's anything you can throw my way to help me maybe potentially reconsider, I would appreciate that. So thank you for the time.
Mr. George Colebrook, Diane Smith.
President Ceja Martinez, board members, Ms. Pallas-Thompson. I'm here to give you some recognition for the district. On March 5th, the city of Peoria held a teen job fair at Rio Vista Recreation Center. In part of this job fair, Mrs. Melinda Kainer from Centennial High School and the Centennial High School FBLA group held a clothing drive for professional clothing. That was a success. We had a group come out dressed for success that was able to use that clothing, and they help women find jobs and ensure that they have that emotional support with the clothing to secure a job. At this event, we had 275 kids attend, which is amazing. It was on a Monday, which was a half day. And we had several different career paths: drywall, ironworkers union, electrical, a senior center, the Department of Corrections, Department of Economic Security, a dog groomer. 22 different employers from various factions were there. And I wanted to share with you, because of the wonderful programming of our CTE programs, some of the comments from these employers. 1, Harkins Theater. 60 out of 110 applications that were given out, we held 60 interviews. Department of Economic Security. Your job seekers, your young adults, were articulate and interested in working and learning more about state opportunities. It was very impressive to see all types of student attendance, including those with disabilities. What great exposure you provided us and access to this to this great workforce. From Distribution Unlimited. Thank you for planning such a wonderful event. We talked to many good prospects, and we've already scheduled a couple of interviews. It was an excellent investment of our time. This is a direct reflection of the wonderful teachers and students that we have in this district. And as a member of the City of Peoria who helped organize this event, it shows to others across the state what a wonderful district the Peoria Unified School District is in preparing our future workforce. So I wanted to say thank you very much. Thank you to our CTE programs. Thank you to Mrs. Melinda Kainer from Centennial High School and their FBLA group, and to all the wonderful students and the work that the teachers do every day to prepare our future workforce. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Smith, Douglas Edwards would be next.
Good evening. My name is Diane Smith. I do not live in Peoria. I live in an island in Maricopa County. I'm 6 miles in one direction from Peoria and 7 miles in the other from Peoria. However, I pay Peoria district school taxes. I live in a senior citizen community, 1,650 homes. Everybody is over 55. There are no children living there. There will never be any children living there, and they will never attend a Peoria school. Our taxes in our area have quadrupled since I moved there. We are bounded by the Deer Valley, the 303 on the north, and El Mirage. We are paying these school taxes when across the street from Deer Valley is Sun City West. Sun City West pays no district school taxes. We are picking up the water for these people, and our taxes are out of sight. We cannot sell our homes. It is a burden to people who are retired. I moved there 14 years ago. My husband has passed away. My taxes have just about quadrupled from the time. Nothing's changed. My house isn't worth any more money, and I can't get any more money for it, but I'm paying all these taxes. And when I add it all up, I don't mind. I was a school teacher, and I don't mind paying school taxes, but I have a real problem when there's 44,000 people in Sun City and Sun City West who do not pay it. Now, you opted those people out of the Peoria School District. In fact, in Youngtown, they lost their exemption because they had kids going to school in Peoria. It took you 9 years to go back and collect the taxes from them. I'm willing to pay my school taxes, but I'm not willing to pick up the water for everybody else that you've allowed to opt out, because way back 30 years ago, you didn't want the people in Sun City West and Sun City on your school boards. So you opted them out, and now because of the bond issues and everything else, we can't plan for retirement, because these taxes keep going up with every bond issue. We're asking you to consider a senior tax or something. I mean, we have numbers here and graphs. We will show you what we have participated. It's to the tune of about $6 million a year is coming out of our community, and we're not even in Peoria. We don't get any city services. We don't get police. We don't get fire. We're not getting water. Trash, nothing. We get nothing from Peoria. I don't understand this, and we're asking for some help. Thank you.
May we follow up on that as well?
Good evening. My name is Douglas Edwards. I'm going to reiterate some of what Diane said. I'm going to read this because I'm senior and I don't want to have a senior moment and forget some of the things I wanted to say, but I want to preface what I was planning to say by just the fact that as we sit here and listen to the budget constraints that you people are under, and teachers who are not being paid what they should be paid and what they are worth and what they are valued, we look at 27,000 homes in Sun City, 14,000 homes in Sun City West, who are exempt from Peoria Unified School District taxes. That is a huge number, people. That is a revenue resource that you are letting go. At the same time, the same situation, a 55 and older adult community called Portobello, is paying school taxes. I don't understand why you haven't realized this as a revenue resource. So let me just say what I was going to say. Diane alluded to the fact that we receive no municipal services from Peoria or Glendale. And our primary question is, why is Portobello included in the Peoria School District for the purpose of taxation when our neighbors in Sun City West, another age-restricted adult community, literally across the street, Deer Valley Road, for some reason there's this line of demarcation. You're south of Deer Valley Road, you're excluded. North of Deer Valley Road, you pay. It seems arbitrary, capricious, and it's blatantly discriminatory. and it constitutes taxation without representation. It's not a just and reasonable taxation policy as required by the Arizona State Constitution. Article 9, and I want you to please pay attention to this, the wording of this. Article 9, Section 1 states, quote, "All taxes shall be uniform upon the same class of property within the territorial limits of the authority levying the tax." The same class of property within the territorial limits of the authority levying the tax. That means you should be, if you're levying the tax on us, you should be including Sun City and Sun City West. Because of this unequal and unfair assignment of school district taxes by the PUSD, we, Portobello, are experiencing depressed home values relative to Sun City West. Marketing our homes has become especially problematic at a time when our continuing escalating property taxes are forcing some of our homeowners out of their homes. Some realtors will not even bring clients to view our homes because once their clients become aware of the school tax issue, they refuse to even consider to buy in Portobello. This is definitely not a fair and equitable method of collecting taxes. In order for this disparate assessment of taxes to be reasonable, we believe the Peoria Unified School District must either collect school taxes from every age-restricted adult community within its territorial limits or exempt them all.
I appreciate you bringing that to our attention, and I will continue to follow up as a board with our taxing information is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Evanine Reyes and Bob Balazari. Thank you.
As parents, we entrust Peoria Elementary School with the safety of our children. When we find out that our child was bullied, injured, we, parents, start to worry, and the trust is compromised. The school was threatened, and we were notified a day later. We deserve to know. We have the right to know. In kindergarten, my daughter was hit. My daughter hit her head on the wall, when in fact another student had pushed her. Not until I picked her up is when she told me what had really happened. Something like a -5 is not a consequence, or having students sent to other classrooms. I have witnessed one of these students playing with other students on the playground. How is playing a consequence? If these behaviors are overlooked or treated as no big deal, the students will continue to misbehave. For 2 years, my daughter was in a class with a student who was hitting other students and the teacher, interrupting the class, throwing objects, pushing desks over, and running away from the teacher. How and why should this be the responsibility of the teacher? Is the teacher supposed to leave their 20-something students to chase one student? Or leave the one student unsupervised? It was so bad that the students in the class already knew what to do when the student was misbehaving. I was told every student has a right to free education, and we as parents had to wait until all the appropriate steps were met before the student could be removed permanently. I disagree. If a student is harming other students, some of these steps, if not all of these steps, should be skipped. Or is this child's right to free education greater than the safety of other students? This year, the junior high 6th grade through 8th grades was moved closer to the elementary students, pre-K through 5th grade. I have, along with other parents, witnessed the junior high students using the elementary bathroom. The junior high students need 2 bathrooms. Some of these junior high students are not putting their sanitary napkins in the designated containers. Last year, there were issues with sexual misconduct with junior high students in the bathroom. There is no one supervising these students to make sure they are following the rules and keeping our elementary students safe. We have tried to communicate this to certain administrative personnel, but we don't know if something was done. To this day, other parents and I still see junior high students using the bathroom. I personally would prefer not to have to explain to my second grader or first grader what sex is or what is a sanitary napkin. If these behaviors cannot be controlled, then the junior high should be moved back to the northwest side of the campus. Next year, I will be transferring my daughter and son to another school. This was and is not an easy decision for me. My daughter is upset because she's going to miss her friends. Peoria Elementary is within walking distance to my house. Now, whichever school I choose to take them, I'm going to have to drive them. But this is what I'm willing to do for what's best for my children. This is how unhappy I am with this school administrative personnel. I cannot continually send them to school who does not listen to their students, teachers, or parents. Ignoring and not holding students responsible for their actions is not okay with me.
I hear your frustration and will continue to follow up.
I have some charts. Can I bring them to you?
Please. And then I'll pass it. Thank you. Here's the paper one. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is, excuse me, my name is Bob Baldessari. I'm a member of the Government Affairs Committee from Portobello, and Diane, my colleague, and Doug have given you a lot of the information about Portobello. We are an adult community in the West Valley. I'm a seasonal resident here in Arizona. I support Arizona and Maricopa County through my property taxes and my sales taxes. I really don't agree that I should have to pay 66% of my property taxes to the Peoria Unified School District. Over the past 11 full years, I've paid $50,000 in property taxes. Of that $50,000, it's $33,000, as you can see on the charts I gave you. $33,000 is to the Peoria Unified School District. Our community, as you've heard, does not allow children under 18 to reside longer than 90 days, and we receive no benefits from any of the services. While Sun City and Sun City West, located south of Deer Valley Road, also adult communities like us, pay no taxes. And I think that's where the real problem is. We've said it once, I'm going to reiterate it. Realtors are dissuaded from looking at our houses because of the high tax burden. While permanent residents can vote for school board and bond issues, I can't. We can't vote for mayor and city council and the people who actually approve these school bond issues. I'm just curious why we're not afforded the same constitutional rights as other communities like us. Portobello has 1,650 homes, and I did a quick example. I use $2,500 a year as a tax, school board tax. Over 14 years, 1,650 homes, it's $57 million that our community has funneled into the Peoria School District. And we've mentioned we feel this is taxation without representation. I think it's taxation by location. Unfortunately, we're in the wrong location. Portobello doesn't have any players in this game, but we're paying the full price of admission. Let me say, after hearing these students, this is a hard act to follow, by the way, their presentations earlier, and watching on TV the plight of the teachers, I'm very sympathetic, and we're not against supporting your schools, the public school system. However, the financial burden must be spread. It's got to be spread to everybody, 100%. Whether you have children in the schools or not, you've got to help. I pay in 2 states, and I live in the state of Maryland, and we have the second best schools in the whole country, and let me tell you, our school taxes are very high. So if the burden can't be shared 100% by everyone, it's not going to work. And that's why you have teachers wearing red today and every day, and keep with it. So I'd like to thank you for listening to us and for considering our position.
Thank you for the information I'll share. Next, please, Trina Berg and Bill Werneth. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, President Ceja Martinez, members of the board. My name is Trina Berg. I'm the president of the Peoria Education Association. As you know, if you've been paying any attention at all, the Arizona Educators United group has created a movement known as Red for Ed. We've been working with them in this movement to advocate for public education in Arizona and to change the trajectory of, especially specifically funding for our education system. We've heard from educators one tonight that as much as they love their job, with the way things are right now, they just can't continue with how things are going. There's a lot of us like me who've been here for 18 years. I'm kind of stuck. I really can't leave without taking a pay cut, but I'm also not making what the salary schedule that used to exist when I started. I'm about $10,000, $15,000 less than what I should be making at this point in my career. At this point, we're in the process of building our support with the community, and we really need your support as well in this movement. That's why we're here tonight, to show you this is clearly an important deal for your teachers, for your staff. We feel that we need everyone's support moving forward in this movement. This is a really exciting time in our state. We've never seen anything like this when it comes to public education. And this is just the beginning, and it's been a very fast-building, fast-moving situation. We need everyone involved to make this work and to truly change the trajectory that we've been seeing. I look forward to having a conversation with you in the very, very near future on what your support to us is going to look like so that your teachers and staff know that you have our back in this and that you're going to be there with us and standing with us, because this is a very important movement for us, and we are all in, and we feel that we need our board and our administration all in with us on this. Thank you.
Last 2 speakers, Roddy Hendricks and Judy Van Afflen. I apologize for the last name.
Oh, mine's shorter. Good evening. My name is Randy Hendricks, and I'm also a resident of Portobello for the past 4 years. We moved here from Illinois, and we're retired, and we moved into this 55 and older community. And, you know, I just assumed, you know, that we wouldn't have any school taxes. However, to my amazement, we do. And at least 60% of our bill is for schools, of which we have no children attending, and we have no representation whatsoever. I'm not opposed to paying school taxes, believe me. I came from a county in Illinois that has the #1 school district, and we paid a lot there. but it was worth it, and I'm all for the teachers and all for them getting more. But what I am not for is paying and the areas around us are not. That's hurting our property values so badly. I have a chronic heart condition and with a pacemaker and a defibrillator, and the stress, I wanted to sell our house. I wanted to move into one of these communities where, you're just retired. However, that didn't work out because of our property values. And what I'm asking is that you consider, this and to help us. I'm not opposed to paying. I'm really not. I'm all for the teachers and the students getting a great education. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you tonight. My name is Judy Van Alf, and I live in the Portobello community, and I've been there since 2004. And I'm with the rest of the group. I think that they have pretty much presented what our issues are, and I'm hopeful that this board is going to look at it and figure out what's fair and equitable across the board. The reason I'm up here is today, in getting my remarks together, the more I wrote, the more wound up I got. I'm really glad that I came to this meeting tonight because one of the things that's been very enlightening for me is to hear from our young people and from our teachers firsthand. And I think that's very humbling. If I could offer one suggestion beyond what's already been stated, I would put in place that every American needs to go to a school district board meeting after you retire and understand what our teachers and our young folks are going through. I was raised in a home to believe that education was what you needed to be able to move forward in life and to have a good life and to fulfill your duties and responsibilities as a citizen. So I support the school boards. I support the kids. And right now, what I see going across the nation, our young people, I think, have to be admired. And I think that the adults across this nation should stand up, pay attention to our children, and take a lesson from them and learn how to be civil. Thank you very much.
It is the hardest thing as a board to not be able to comment and address you. However, we have our Chief Financial Officer. He will continue to follow up with some of the comments made for district-wide email. I would encourage that when we look at the information that you guys have presented to us, that we also, with the board or representatives from the board, we designate to have a roundtable discussion. I would love to have some of our teachers who are very analytical to be a part of that conversation as well, and so that we can continue this honest partnership and listening and sharing your thoughts, because we would love to learn from the things that you guys experienced as well. Teachers, thank you for your time this evening. We can continue with the agenda. I could not have said it better myself. As joining board meetings and attending, I would love to see a representative from every school campus, whether it be a rotation, that we have at least 42 seats filled up every day, or every board meeting, so that you can hear the conversation and take it back. It is live streamed, it is recorded, and please, we are sifting through the emails and responding as fast as we can. So I appreciate your time. Governing board, generally we don't respond to any of those, but is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'm kind of jumping ahead to future agenda items with your permission, but Mr. Hicks, there's a lot of information that I think would be helpful to us, including the history of taxation in this area, just so we can understand. And I heard that That the Portobello community does not vote on school boards or bond and override elections? Is that what I heard?
We vote on school boards and bond issues. I think I said.
Talk about it, but can we add those topic items? What are their voting?
I just wanted to clarify what I thought I heard.
Okay.
No?
You can vote on those, but not on for the people who make the decisions, the mayor, city council, and all that.
Okay, for the city, I understand. But anyway, there's quite a bit of background information. If we could get that from staff, that'd be very helpful.
Mrs. Pingarelli, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Anything you'd like to add?
I just want to apologize for not being here during all the presentations. I'm very sorry. It couldn't be helped. But I will go back, I promise you, and watch it. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say I'm grateful for the community involvement and for the input, and we do listen and we take note. Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, you are all welcome to stay for the rest of the board meeting. And I'm going to continue with consent agenda items for number 5, but you may exit as well. Okay, for that consent agenda item number 5, would anybody like to pull from the agenda? We do have an item that we want to be pulled. Not working?
So let's wait.
I do appreciate you guys staying, or if you're continuing to exit, we are continuing with our board meeting, and it is challenging to hear. I do appreciate your time.
Check. Oh, we're on again. Mrs. Martinez, I asked to pull item 5.3 and item 5.12.
Any other items like to be pulled?
With that, I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of items 5.3 and 5.12.
I second. We have a motion and a second to approve. Oh. Ms. Stone. Would you like me to repeat it? Nope. Thank you.
That's not the motion.
That's not the motion that was made.
I seem to have dropped.
That's not the motion that was made.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We can do roll call.
Mine's not working anyway.
Motion is to approve the consent agenda item excluding 5.3 and 5.12. Mrs. Connect?
5.3 talks about.
We're going to do roll call for the consent agenda
Oh.
item. Mrs. Connect?
You can just say all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? and 1 absent.
Okay, item 5.3, it said, it was to approve an amended minutes, and I saw the minutes, but I didn't see a reference to what had been amended. Do you recall what was changed?
Yes, I had sent an email. Can we get a microphone, please?
I don't remember the email, but in the packet, it wasn't referenced.
Anything? Okay, so in the January 25th minutes, the agenda item 9.1 was left off when the board approved the settlement for the lawsuit, the Killian versus Peoria Unified School District. That was left off. So Dr. Davidson called that to my attention, and I added that.
Okay, thank you. I move to approve, well, we'll do the other two together. The other one was, and this one is a question for Mr. Hicks, unless someone else knows it. Just something that was new to me, this concept of the surplus property management program that the state does. I wanted a little information on, maybe Michelle knows, I don't know, what that is, and to what degree do we participate? If, you know what, we can hold that until he comes back. Yeah, we'll do that later. Okay. I move to approve item 5.3.
I second. We have a motion to approve 5.3. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? 4 yeses, 0 nos, and one absent. Okay. And we will revisit 5.12. Moving on, number 6. Address agenda and consider adoption or recommend changes of the agenda. Or any changes to the current agenda? They stand. Moving forward to 7.1. Update and discussion on Peoria Unified School District strategic plan process. Mr. John Gay. Mr. Gay, I'm trying to keep up with your on-time strategic process, and we're an hour and a half into.
Well, thank you. I'll make it as quick as I possibly can without skipping anything important. Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board, Ms. Pallas Thompson, community and staff. Appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. As you know, there was a study session on February 24th in which the single agenda item was to talk about strategic planning in Peoria Unified School District. And the actions that you requested that we take is for us to come and give you an update at this board meeting, and that's the purpose of my time with you here this evening. So I'm going to quickly go through this agenda, just touch on things, try not to spend a lot of time with things we can talk about later. I did want to do a recap of that study session. That was on a Saturday, so it wasn't as full as it is even now in here, and so it may be good for the public to hear some of the things we talked about. I want to spend a moment talking about actions we've taken and actions that are in progress. A little bit of time on the very high level tentative strategic plan development timeline that we have. And then finally, in the vein of ensuring success and sustained success with regard to strategic planning and the process, therefore, we wanted to make a recommendation and get your feedback on that. So at the Saturday, February 24th Governing Board study session, as I said, the single agenda item was on strategic planning. Ms. Pallas Thompson reviewed the current mission, vision, and values of the district. I won't go through all those, they're posted. And also talked a little bit about what we have had in the past with regard to strategic planning. She took us through a very mind-bending connect the dots exercise that got our juices running early in the morning. And then we spent the rest of the morning on basically the 6 steps that we're proposing to take for our strategic planning process. In the course of doing that in the morning, the board participated in a couple of exercises that I think we all thought were very productive. And it was gratifying to me to see everyone very engaged in thinking about the things that we talked about. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. One of the things I'll just mention now is that the board, as the representatives of the community, expressed its views, its perspectives on who is the judge of the quality of Peoria Unified School District, first of all, and that is the community, the ultimate judge, because that community decides to send their children to our schools. And then also the answer to the question, what are the things that really matter, the big things, not 100 things, but the really big things, it turns out to be 4, that really matter to that community from the lens of the community, and we call those our strategic perspectives, and then we discussed next steps. So in terms of this planning process, I'm not going to obviously go through it in the kind of detail we did on Saturday, but I did want to touch just a little bit on some of them. And they say that oftentimes the most important step in any important journey is the first one. And the first one is about gaining focus. Part of that is just getting ready to get started, right? And so we have to organize ourselves to think about strategic planning. What is a strategic plan? What is not one? What are those big things we want to focus on, et cetera. And so that's what we did there. And I want to just leave that list for a moment and talk about those 4 things that really matter in the view of our governing board, matters to our community, and of course it matters to us as well. And they are, as you can see there, I'll just touch on them briefly, but I think they speak for themselves in a lot of ways. Overall student achievement success, that is after all what we're here for. And of course, safety and well-being of our students and our staff. It's important that we take care of those precious resources. The third item is that we exercise a sense of responsibility and good stewardship over the resources that were granted to us by the community in order to exercise that mission. And then finally, the quality of the connection that we have with the community. That's vitally important as well. We talked a lot about how those things at a high level are very, very common in terms of lots of industries and professions. And in the area of K-12, it's hard to argue with any of those. Those make all the sense in the world to us. What's important as we think through the rest of this process is that everything we do from this moment forward, we need to look at it through this lens. So there are things that are important to us as staff that we do well, but only insofar as they help us to achieve excellence in these 4 areas. And so that makes a lot of sense to us as we begin this work. So returning, I'll spend very little time on the rest of these, but I just wanted to give remind everybody and give the community a sense for how we're going to approach this work. Having gained that focus and getting started organizing ourselves, then we will spend some time deciding what we have to do really well and what success looks like in order to achieve those 4 important items. We'll assess our current reality. Now that's an external and an internal look. We have to look externally to understand how our community, how the state, how the federal government, our society at large may have changed since the last time we did something like this. And then we also, of course, assess ourselves internally. So we understand our strengths, our weaknesses, the opportunities that we have, and the threats or the challenges that may be facing us going forward. The next step 4, is where it really starts getting interesting, and it also starts getting to the point that I always believe very, very strongly in, that a strategic plan is about direction. It's about going from where we are to where we perceive we need to be. And as we start articulating the gaps between what we believe success looks like and the things that we must really do really do well, and the gaps between those and the gap and where we stand today in terms of how we actually perform. So we may be falling short in some areas or have some opportunities for improvement. We may do really, really well in other areas, but those areas may not be relevant anymore because the world around us has changed. So it's important that we do that assessment very, very carefully and articulate those gaps and understand the extent and the definitions of them. And then in step 5 is where we really make the plan actionable. So I said that a strategic plan is about direction and movement, and that implies action. So strategic plan that's just a statement of what excellence means is really interesting, but it's not actionable. And it's important that we be able to take action that results in us moving the district in the direction we need to go. So we develop goals, very specific goals, and we look at those gaps and we assign priorities, because after all, we can't do everything at once. Then we develop strategies for closing the gaps, and we develop specific initiatives that are timelined. We understand the funds required to perform them, and we'll understand when we're done, when we've achieved the objectives that we set out for each of those initiatives. So a lot of plans stop right there. It's like, okay, we got a plan, we know what we're going to do, it's actionable, so we're going to stop and start performing those initiatives. I always add a sixth step, and it's this last one, enable, act, sustain, and improve. That's because I think we all understand when we articulate it, but sometimes we don't think about it. A strategic plan is not an event, it's a process. And so we have to sustain this work over time. It's not good to create a plan, let's say a 5-year plan, put it on a shelf, do some actions, and then 10 years later we go, oh, we need another plan. And so every year we'll have to update our plan and improve it and see where we fell short, see where we can maybe finish early, we can start one of our initiatives early, all those kinds of monitoring activities that we need to do. Now, oddly enough, it's listed as step 6, but it really starts at the same time as step 1. And we'll see that in the timeline, because beginning with this work, we have to set in motion those things that will help us sustain the work as we go forward. So I'll just click through this. Should have been doing that. Okay, our actions taken and those in progress. We formed our core strategic planning project team, and in the spirit of what I said earlier, that the 4 strategic perspectives will drive the work that we do, we have assigned, had able volunteers, 4 executive team members, each of which is assuming the champion role for one of those 4 strategic perspectives. I'll just mention them quickly. Dr. Kendra Bell is in charge of the student achievement perspective. Steve Savoy is in charge of our safety and well-being perspective. Mr. Ken Hicks is in charge of our stewardship of our taxpayer resources. And then finally, Ms. Danielle Airy is in charge of our connection with the community, the quality of our connection with the community. Now, we've started talking about additional people that we are going to ask to help us as leaders in our working groups that will support the work that we're getting done. And we'll, of course, add to those folks as we go through. Now, I didn't say when I outlined the steps, and I'll say it right here, that what goes on through all of the steps is a continuous engagement with our stakeholders. That's a large set of people. We've begun identifying those groups, not the names, but those groups categorically. And we also, as part of the stakeholder plan, we will be designing engagement activities with each of those groups. Some of those will be with entire groups, some will be focused on one or more of the strategic perspectives. And so we'll be rolling out those definitions and that engagement plan as we go forward. And then, as I said a moment ago, we've developed some high-level timelines that I think understands the dynamics of the school year, also understands some key events that are coming up in the coming months. So here's that timeline. Just note a couple of things. There's no specific dates on there. You can sort of infer them from the way it's laid out. As we get a little bit down the road, we'll start looking at some real target dates to start and end each of these phases. You'll notice that they overlap. That's on purpose. As we start a phase, we make sure we understand the expected outcomes for each one of those, for that step. And then as we're wrapping up, we evaluate, have we achieved those outcomes, and what are the outcomes for the next step, and we do that work on a continuous basis. As I mentioned a moment ago, step 6 really proceeds throughout the entire project. It's really starting tonight, and it proceeds through the entire 6 steps and on beyond into the future. Now, there's some key events that are happening as we go through this timeline. One of those is that the plan is to appoint a new superintendent in around the July timeframe. And then also there's, as we all know, there's an election in November, and it's entirely possible, I mentioned that here, because depending on what the Citizens Bond Advisory Committee decides to recommend to the board and how the board takes that recommendation, we may have a bond issue on the ballot. And so as we think of our strategic plan, clearly our bond request should align with our strategic plan. And so we need to make those connections as we go through that process. Okay, I said that step 6 starts in the beginning, and this is this recommendation that I would like to recommend to you tonight, and would ask for your direction in terms of whether you'd like us to proceed along these lines. You'll recall from the Saturday session, I made the comment that you can always tell when an organization and its leaders think are important to the organization, when you look at the org chart and you find out, is anybody in charge of it or not? And if nobody's in charge of it, probably not true that governance organization thinks it's very important. The second thing you can look at is, does the governance organization have a policy that talks about what are expectations with regard to that thing, and what are the procedures that are in place to make sure that whatever that is executed effectively. And so what I'm recommending to you is that you allow us to develop a brief board policy, a new board policy, that is about strategic planning, and it would address the 4 bullets that I have there. It's a statement of the board's commitment to ongoing strategic planning. It's a direction to the superintendent to implement an ongoing strategic planning process and monitoring structure. It clearly mandates or establishes the connection between strategic planning and our resource allocation. And then finally, it mandates that that we periodically review our strategic plan, and that the board have an opportunity to see that and approve that on a recurring basis, probably annually, but I just put periodic there, and we can discuss the particulars of that. And so if this makes sense to you, I'd be love to hear your direction and feedback with regard to should we do this, or if you had any specific direction. Short of that, I'm open to questions.
So efficient. Ms. Stone?
That was very good. I think that we should go ahead and move forward with what you've outlined. Looks good to me.
Mrs. Connect?
A couple things. Could you go back to your list? I think it's a wonderful framework for a developing. The last one.
Oh, the last one. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Oh, you can go back to that other one too. In addition to what there may or may not be a bond election, there's 2 of these seats up here that are going to be up as well. So that will affect the future of the district as well.
Absolutely.
And then the next slide, please. Okay, so I think this is a great foundation for a developing policy. I do think, like you said, on the second bullet down, it is about ongoing strategic planning. As we develop a policy, one of the frustrations that I had when we adopted the last one, I think it was way back in 2006 or 7, was it was designed at the time to be a 10-year plan, and I was always frustrated. What kind of a dynamic organization like a school district has a 10-year plan? And so I do think as we develop a policy, and maybe we can discuss it as a board later, we should determine how frequently we expect it to evolve, at least to some degree. That's very good. I agree with Mrs. Doan, we should move forward with this. And the only other thing, in the topic of community connections, I had the opportunity to observe how another school district is doing their strategic planning process right now, and they heavily utilize focus groups. And you talked about the different stakeholder groups. Traditionally, the way this group reaches out to the community is through committees, and I think that an ad hoc focus group might be a more effective way to do that. It's certainly something that we should explore.
Thank you, Ms. Connect, and we have talked about that in our discussion of how we engage with stakeholders.
Okay, very good. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mrs. Pingarelli?
Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time on Saturday. I know it was the time that the board could get together, so I appreciate it. And it's good hearing from you. We haven't heard from you as a main presentation for quite a while, so appreciate it. No, I agree with this, particularly the last one, mandating a periodic review, because I think that, I agree with Mrs. Connect that we do need to look at the strategic plan at least on a yearly basis. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mr. Gade, thank you so much. And what I meant by time is that you do so well. I'm trying to follow your lead. Okay. So I was not trying to rush you.
Oh, not at all.
I wanted to focus on 3 things. I definitely echo what my peers state. I was just having a conversation with Mr. Savoy and Ms. Linda Pellis Thompson about when we create the committees, to your point, Ms. Kinnick, the city of Peoria does a great job creating a strategic focus group. They advertise it in their water, and they look for specific information to support Ms. Connick's idea. I would agree that would be a great idea. 3 things: accountability. Without holding people accountable, nothing's going to happen. And so this presentation holds every single level, structure, sideways, up, down. We're all accountable. If we create positions such as Director of Risk Management, we value that. And since that is one of our 4 opportunities of safety, and we continue that conversation, that tells the story that we value safety. In addition, policy. At our level, the governing board, we maintain focus and making sure that we are aligned to the strategic plan, and we can continue to create goals that align to that so that our board meetings are on point, aligning to the strategic process. Gives us direction, and then ultimately, I want to highlight your process. I heard during Saturday, the governing board, I appreciated the conversation that we had. I liked hearing that every administration, they were on tabletop discussions about SWOT analysis, teachers were part of conversations, and then to continue to hear community involvement and having those focus groups as part of the process. I do appreciate that. So with that being said, I would say let's keep going, and I look forward to hearing more.
Thank you very much.
.3, district budget report for the month of January.
7.2.
Oh, excuse me.
7.2.
It was, you guys are on top of it today. 7.2, consideration of recommendation for administrative appointment for elementary principal for 2018-2019 school year.
Madam President, members of the board, Mrs. Pallas Thompson, we don't want to skip this agenda item.
So sorry.
We have a lot of people that have been sitting here patiently, some really terrific people that I have an opportunity to introduce you to tonight. But this really is a fun, special night for these folks. It begins a new journey in their life with your approval of our administrative recommendation. These internal applicants were selected by a committee through the application process first, and then were subjected to an interview process, face-to-face interview, from which they then moved to a full committee interview that not only engaged district administration and human resources staff, but we also had parents included, students were included, and teachers were included on that panel, where each of the candidates had to present, for the first 5 minutes, a quick portfolio or recommendation of the 3 initiatives that they would accomplish in the first 90 days. And that was really a fun activity for them. And through that process, we bring 3 names forward to you tonight. I'd like to share that information first, and then the board can motion and have any discussion. And then later we'll invite them up. Our first recommendation that we have for you this evening is Mr. Josh Rollins, that he be appointed to the position of principal at Vistancia Elementary School. Mr. Rollins currently serves as assistant principal at Vistancia Elementary and has done so for the entire 2017-18 school year. Josh has also worked as a special education teacher in our district. He's had success as a professional educator and has a diverse educational background. Josh completed a master's degree in administration and supervision from Arizona State University in July of 2012 and has a bachelor's degree in justice studies also from ASU. It is recommended that Mrs. Aubrey Mills be appointed to the position of principal at Ira A. Murphy Elementary School. Mrs. Mills currently serves as assistant principal at Sun Valley Elementary and has done so since 2014. Aubrey has also worked as an instructional coach and a certified teacher in our school district. She has had success as a professional educator and, too, has a diverse educational background. Aubrey completed her master's degree in educational leadership from Grand Canyon University in 2014, a master's degree in multicultural diversity from Northern Arizona University in 2008, and a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Arizona State University. And it is also recommended that Mrs. Melissa Duguid, be appointed to the position of principal at Oasis Elementary School. Mrs. Duguid currently serves as assistant principal at Oasis and has done so since 2016. Mrs. Duguid has also worked as a high school English teacher and coach, as well as an elementary school teacher in our district. Melissa has had success as a professional educator as well and has a diverse educational background. She completed her master's degree in elementary school leadership from NAU in 2004 and has a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Ottawa University, which she earned in 2001. So those are the three candidates that we bring forward to you, Madam President, for your consideration.
At this time, we'll follow Robert's rules. And do I have a motion?
Mrs. Ceja Martinez, I move to approve the recommendation of administration.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation. All in favor, oh wait, can we vote or do we still have to do the? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All ayes, unanimous, yes.
So we'd like to invite them up.
Yes, please.
Stand for any questions from the board, and certainly we want them to share their families.
I am Aubrey Mills, the assistant principal, now the principal at Ira Murphy. It is an honor and a privilege to be recommended for that position. I look forward to carrying on the legacy and traditions that are already in place at Ira Murphy. I would like firstly to thank the board for that recommendation and approval. I would also like to thank my family who's watching and who is here in the audience. I've got my husband and my two boys here with me. And I would like to also thank the exceptional leaders that have served as mentors in this district for the last 15 years and opened many, many doors for me. So thank you, everyone.
I'd first like to thank the board and administration for this amazing, truly, from my heart, amazing opportunity. Oasis is a fabulous community that has an awesome staff and students that I am so excited to continue to serve. I truly feel blessed with the family that I am going to inherit by being there. I do also have a very supportive family at home. My husband is here today, Sean. I have two wonderful children at home that also attend school in our district. And once again, I thank you for this amazing opportunity. Thank you.
Board members and administration, I'd like to say thank you as well. I'm extremely excited about this opportunity, and thank you for entrusting me with the leadership of Vistancia. It's not only the school I currently work at, but it's also my home school. My kids go there, and so I'm excited to take stewardship over that school and that community. And I thank you for the trust to take over there. My family's not able to join me there at home. I have 3 young daughters who are in first grade, preschool, and grade 2 years old, so I hope they're asleep by now. But a very supportive wife who I cannot do this without, and I want to say thank you for your trust, and thank you.
We'll go ahead and start. Mrs. Pengarelli?
Well, I just wanted to say congratulations to all 3 of you, and luckily it's taped, so your daughters will be able to watch it over and over and over. So, well, congratulations.
I'll say thank you for all your past service and thank you for your future service. Congratulations to these appointments tonight. And please forgive us for forgetting that you were waiting because we could have let you go ahead of time. So I would just ask admin to nudge us if we missed that in the future. But thank you for staying with us and giving us the opportunity to congratulate you.
Thank you. Ms. Doan?
Yes, thank you so much, and congratulations for your promotions and for staying with it and for your dedication to the students of this community and to the community itself. Congratulations.
Wow. So exciting, all three. I believe Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, graduate of Centennial High School?
Yes, I think I was a year ahead of you.
Right? And we took a physics class together, so I know how smart you are. Miss Mills.
Long time.
Yes, I learned a lot from you. Ira Murphy's in wonderful hands. Thank you. Miss Duguid, thank you. Your poise and demeanor when I spoke to you on the campus of Oakwood says volumes, and it was still a memory that I remember. So thank you so much, and good luck to all three of you.
Madam President, I hate to interrupt, but Madam President, I noticed across the room, I spied Mrs. Miller and Mrs. Cushing, and I just want to thank them for being here as they pass the torch to two of the three new administrators. Thank you for being here tonight and supporting them and doing that for your schools.
And all you've done for your schools.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. That you would like to share, or words of wisdom? Please join us. Please join us to the mic.
Can't get away with it.
I do have to say thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This evening, as we were getting ready for this, and Melissa was very nervous, I said, no problem. I opened up my bottom drawer and I gave her my last half-full bottle of Tums. And I said, here, this is for you.
I'm so glad she said Tom's.
A lot of good advice tonight, from our students to our administration.
I just want to thank the board and administration for hiring three great people. I have connections to all of them. First of all, Josh is now my husband's boss, so that's a good thing, right? And Melissa DeGood, she was a student teacher of mine, so I just think you can't go wrong with her. She's 100% wonderful person inside and out. And Aubrey, I've had the privilege of working. I saw her teach and do great things in the classroom when I worked at Country Meadows, and then she I was an instructional coach after that, so I got to work side by side with her. And so I couldn't be happier that she's just going to add on to the great, everybody that comes through the schools just adds on another layer. So I'm really proud of all three of them, so congratulations.
Thank you.
You as well for your leadership. Well, thank you so much. You can continue and watch this board meeting and participate on any of these green sheets. Just fill them out, or you may go have dinner and enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to 7.3, report and discussion on local, state, federal legislative issues and activities.
Go ahead.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you very much for allowing me just a quick update. And I could have kicked this first one over to Ms. Powles-Thompson as just to end last week. We had a great tour with Representative Payne. Came to tour a couple of our schools, and I think it was very worthwhile. They toured Peoria High School in Cheyenne, and I think we built a good, strong relationship. He's already asked to come to tour the rest of the schools that are in Legislative District 21, and already talked a little bit about some other bills that are going through in that sense. So I thought it was very fruitful, and I just thank the principals for their time and Ms. Powles-Thompson for joining me to walk him around. I thought it was very good. This week with bills, this is the floor action when each house or each chamber looks at the other chamber's bills as it's going through. There's really only 1 week left for committee hearings, so we're coming down to the end. A lot of the lobbyist updates and notes I'm getting is now they're starting to break into small budget groups and caucuses and starting to do some of the behind the scenes. So that normally means at the end when the bills are going away, they're going to start working on the budget process in that sense. Some bills that are still alive and kicking, some good and not so good. Start with not so good. Senate Bill 1392, you've probably seen the action alerts going through. That's the digital goods and taxes. That is a change in the tax policy structure of how digital goods are actually taxed could have a negative impact in the state budget on the general fund. It also means that if you carve it out and it's not being taxed on the sales tax in the general fund, it means that it won't also be collected for the classroom site fund. So that does actually, so I know we've had some emails from teachers asking, does this really affect, could it affect teacher pay? Yes, in multiple ways. One, if you lower the general fund, it could lower what we get, but also it could lower the sales tax collection going into the classroom site fund, which would also, that is only for certified staff. So it has a double impact. My emails to our legislature is that, first of all, it's bad policy in the middle of a session to try to look and carve out one little section of tax policy and make a change to it in the middle. This really should be a comprehensive look at how they look at sales tax and how it's collected, so that you don't have a lot of unintended consequences. I believe it's being, not up to date today, but I believe it's being held to ask for an additional fiscal note, because the first note that was provided, or the information provided, they don't believe the $180 million hit to the general fund is accurate. So that is still in the process, but that is still something that's alive, and I would say that is very negative, and I have communicated my non-support of that. Just in general, in one of our legislative meetings this week, or last week, they're blurring a little bit, but we had representative from Arizona School Administrators, ASA. We also had a representative from the Arizona School Boards Association, and our group, the ASBO, Arizona Association of School Business Officials. All three were there, gave us different updates on different bills, and I would just say in general, this is probably the best year all three of those groups have collaborated together. They've worked together to testify on different bills, so that one group is not always testifying negatively, or they're not all just testifying in negative sense. This could be as difficult a situation as some of the child abuse bills that are going through. There's a huge unfunded mandate in that, and so it's difficult to say, hey, really this should not go as is, because we don't want to be looked at as against child abuse and doing something. But if they're saying we have to provide a curriculum and do education to every single staff member, that is without additional funds, that could cost millions of dollars in that sense. And so really we're trying to either guide it to a more appropriate, or we're trying to stop it in this session right now. And so they've worked really well together in that sense. The SB 1378, which requires the additional language on bonds and overrides, continues to go forward. It's not dead. Although I say some bills may be dead, as I've been reminded, no bill is ever dead, because it can be replaced with on a strike everything at the leader's request in that sense. And so, but right now that is still adding additional language. This is one I've already talked to the board about, how that adds more language to the bonds and overrides, and I think it's a bad idea. I'm going to try to, in the brevity of time, we may be happy to know that SB 1517, we're working on our state dinosaur, so that is going through.
State
Yes.
dinosaur.
So I believe it's the Sonorosaurus that they're working on. One comment just is that March 31st is the requirement that the JLBC, the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, is required to create the allocation for us to determine how much money is from the classroom site fund. That is turned into, that allocation per student multiplied by our student tells us how much money we have in classroom site fund for our certified staff. We will get that, I assume, March 30th, because March 31st is a Saturday. The recess bill, I'm trying to think that was, I think, being held. I don't have notes that if that was killed or anything. Still concerned how it is. It's not dead. Teacher evaluation is a good thing. It's allowing more flexibility for the highly effective teachers. I believe that is if they have 3 consecutive highly effective evals, that they do not have to have the full evaluation. That is a good thing, so supporting that. ELL instruction is one you hear us talk about, going down from 4 hours down to 120 minutes. Gifted funding continues, and so does the special ed cost study. I heard from one of our legislators yesterday is still alive. Probably the action alert you've heard is SB 1467, which is the student tuition organization tax credit that expands the number of students eligible. That did get passed out of Ways and Means. That's a negative, and I know ASBA is strongly against that and asking people to communicate to their voters, or to their legislators, about that negative impact. One big one that is now just mushroomed up, probably because of the protests, and just reading an article in the Arizona Central with Rob is today hearing a lot of conversation about extending Prop 301 through the legislative process. So that bill, it has been modified a little bit it was originally an extension of 8 years. I believe they're modifying it to 20 years. And there is, I see support growing in that. It doesn't have enough, obviously, the 40 and 20 to pass. But I see there is a lot of momentum right now. Now, there's pros and cons on that. So there was a strategy early on that was to delay the extension of Prop 301 until 2019 ballot. At that time, go to the voters, maybe increase it as well as extend it. The thought there was it's on a cliff, meaning that there's more pressure to put that. Some people said that then you also risk, if you don't raise the money to get the word out on what it is, you risk losing it. And then our teachers probably earn about $6,500, $6,800 each from that. And so they would all lose that money. It would go away. So it would take the cliff pressure off of it, move it forward, but it would be as is. Almost everything would be exactly the same. So there's a little political give and take on this. No, it's not exact and it's not perfect, but it is moving right now from that standpoint. And they've asked me my opinion on some of the lobbyists, and I said I am I'm okay with 301 extension, 20 years as is right now. Still allows for a movement going forward to increase the amount through the voter initiative process, keeping that separate, but maybe strike while the iron's hot and get some positive out of there to extend the 301. I think that is all I have for the update.
Ms. Pallas-Thompson, was there anything you would like to add?
No, I think we're good. Yes, I did enjoy the tour very much when we were there, and a lot of activities have been going on around the district that we're pretty excited about, so thank you.
Mrs. Sejar Martinez. Mr. Hicks, one that you didn't mention, I think that passed the Senate today, was the one that would force school districts to sell properties to charter schools if they had the lowest. Did that pass today?
Madam President, members of the board, I thought I heard last week that was dead, so
Okay.
I did not hear that actually
Okay.
is now moving.
Good, I'm glad I'm wrong.
Well, you might not be wrong. I will look into that.
I'll look at my daily update on ASBA. I'll let you know.
Okay.
The one thing I do want to add is that we went, Ms. Pengrelli and I, and Pallas-Thompson, we went to the State of the City Glendale event, and LD20 Anthony Kern was there as well, so it's great to hear that Kevin Payne sounds to me that they want to continue conversation with Peoria Unified School District. So having those legislators excited about conversation, I look forward to having that sometime soon. Going forward, moving on to 7.4, request for agenda items for future governing board meetings. We do have a list that was provided, and if anybody would like to see it, we'll start off with Mrs. Connect. Is there any items you would like to add?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for showing the list. So I'm trying to frame my requests in the 4 topics that we are developing for our strategic plan. In the area of achievement, I would like to bring up again a conversation that we've never seriously had about the start times in our high schools in particular and how they affect academic achievement. I would like us to explore different models. Well, should we take this one at a time? Because I have I have a few. So is anyone else interested in talking about start times?
We can yes, I second that.
Okay. There are multiple models of ways to rank students in high schools. And I think that it may be time for a review of what those are and what they offer to our students and our school communities.
So can you repeat that again, please?
Let's explore different models of student class ranking.
So are you referring to standard-based grading? Or is that totally different?
Well, I don't know what the different models are, but.
Okay.
But there are different ones that assess students in different ways and motivate them in different ways.
I second.
Okay, in the topic of safety, I'd like us to have a discussion about whether or not we want to establish policies around swimming proficiency and assessment. Anyone else interested in that?
I'd be interested in that.
Okay. And community connectedness, I guess. I was impressed with it's too late for us to do this, but I just want to put this on the radar screen for next year. The second week of March is Public Education Week. And I know other school districts have made a resolution to that effect, and I would like that to be considered in a timely manner, perhaps next year. I won't be here, but maybe it would be something that the next board could consider.
I second that.
I would like us to look at whether or not athletic competitions in our sports are equitable from campus to campus. In other words, do all kids have access to competitions at all of our high schools?
We got a couple of athletic things on there now. Is that included in those?
It could be.
I think we could,
One's, recruitment, and is there another?
the elementary athletics.
Not really.
I don't know.
I second.
Let's see here. I think that is it. Thank you.
Ms. Pingarelli?
I have nothing this evening.
Ms. Stone?
I do. We've talked about bullying and we've addressed the issue but we have not. I have been getting a lot of complaints, emails, and those things about children and even teachers that feel they've been bullied in our district. And I don't think it's something that we should stand for. And I would like a real investigation into this and real information on specific cases. I don't need to know names, but I want to know what is being done and how this is being handled, and I want to put a stop to it. I want our teachers to feel absolutely free to go to any supervisor, any administrator. I want our children to feel safe in the halls and playgrounds and bathrooms of our district. And I'm really frustrated that there seems to be this wall between our parents and our administrators or teachers. I'm very frustrated about that. I want to dig into that and see if we can't fix this problem. We are answerable to these teachers and these students and the parents, and I want to get this taken care of.
Would that be considered a study session?
Perhaps, and it would need preparation because I want some answers on this.
Second that. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, I do have a couple items as well. I believe Mr. Sandoval, I was looking at the list, had mentioned class size. Correct me if I'm wrong, did anybody remember that Mr. Sandoval requested class size?
I don't recall that, but I'm happy. Oh, he did at the retreat.
Okay. I would like a study session, and we're referring to academics, with 2 items to be addressed, which would be class size, our policy surrounding class size, and variances, so all 3. And
Sure, yep.
And then when we elaborate on variances, what the state policy is, or state mandate, school district policy, and defining open enrollment. I know we receive reports on them of school size, but also looking at utilization of variances.
Mrs. Martinez, did you want that as a report or study session?
During a study session so that we
Okay.
can have that conversation
Okay,
together.
Great.
Well, it's great that we have a strategic plan, so it will start to fine tune and then prepare the administration to having those conversations to support that. The other piece is, last year we hired a grant writer. I would like to know a report, just a report sent to the governing board, the revenue generated from the grant writer position.
I'd be interested in that.
Me too.
Great.
Not just the number, but via what grants?
What is the direction? All-encompassing report about the grant writer position.
Great.
And the last one I have is a report on work orders in our district in the 2016, 2017 school year. And what I'm looking for are priorities or what is being missed on the work orders. From my understanding, administration or somebody at the sites put in work orders to fix facilities. So I want to see that list of current work orders that need to be addressed. 2017, 2018, what's pending. Does that make sense?
I'll support that.
And that could just be emailed or in a consent agenda item. And that is it for me. I believe we had a lot of guest speakers, and then those items will be included in a conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Moving on, 8.1, presentation update on the budget process.
Madam President, members of the boards, Intern Superintendent Dr. Linda Palace-Thompson, colleagues, community members, thank you very much for allowing us to present tonight. This is our monthly just update on the budget process. So we elect or volunteer somebody to come and give updates on the budget process. In general, we try to stay away from certain specifics because we do talk about some individual positions, adding and subtracting at that point. So we try to stay away from, in public meetings, talking about that. And so, Ms. Jessica Beatty, if you could give us an update.
All right, so good evening, President Sehar Martinez, board members, Ms. Palace-Thompson. My name is Jessica Batty. I'm a teacher at Sunrise Mountain High School in their special education department. I've been there 13 years. But this is my second year on the budget committee. I represent PEA, certified teachers. So during the budget team meetings, we continue to hear updates about legislative things, potential budget from the state, things that could impact the district. We talk about, where we think funds should go. The main thing we've been talking about is the district additional assistance that the governor introduced in his budget that could potentially bring in $3.8 million extra to the district and what we would do with that. As the state budget has not been finalized, we can't really give numbers or know what's going on, but we meet every other week and discuss what's going on. And hopefully we'll be able to come with a finalized budget for you guys in April. Okay.
Mrs. Connect?
Thanks for sticking it out tonight.
Mrs. Pingrelli?
Oh, thank you for being here.
Ms. Stone?
Thanks for the update. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. I know that you guys are tackling every angle, so just thank you. We are grateful for all your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we on readdress yet?
8.2 is budget, facilities and planning construction report. Okay. Readdress is, we'll be there soon. So 8.2, budget, facilities, planning, construction report. We did want to discuss this in more detail. It does have information that is available for the community to review and pull up. It goes over specific facility, construction, HVAC, but what I want to bring attention to is specifically the Challenger Learning Center, Met Academy, for discussion with the board. This is the Challenger Center that was presented to us back in August, and the information brought to us calculates close to $1 million. So we would like to start the conversation at this point. Ms. Pingrelli?
Yes, I just looked at the history of us going through this process. I pulled the executive minutes from August 10th because I wanted to see exactly, I was there, but I wanted to confirm what was presented to us and what we agreed to as a board. Mrs. Doan, you were not there at the time, so I would suggest you go back and look at that. Last paragraph, it kind of summarizes what took place on that meeting. From that meeting, we had a presentation by Mr. Croto on January 25th. At that time, we were already over, we were at that point about $450,000, which was over our original. On February 22nd, right now we are at about $1 million. And that is what is in this $946,000. So I just want to find out how we got from our executive meeting and what the board agreed to $1 million plus. So I'd like to find out who inspected the building. Was it external? Was it internal? And potentially have an executive meeting to discuss with the board, with the attorney that wrote up the contract for this purchase, and our governing board attorney, to see what potential options we have.
I was reviewing the bond information that was presented to the committee members, and it's allocating an additional $710,000. There's an allocated amount, and if we're looking at stewardship of fiscal responsibility and hearing the needs of our teachers, we made a commitment as a board, what was presented to us, and it doesn't seem to be going that way. So I would like to review that as well and continue that conversation.
Mrs. Martinez, Seah Martinez, I think this is a conversation, this is a study session conversation to revisit the topic as a whole.
The only question that we have is that the information that was presented us was in executive session, so if we bring legal counsel back, that's my only concern. How do we get this information out to the public based on the information, if it can and cannot be presented?
Part of the information isn't private, our conversations are private.
Okay. Ms. Stone?
Well, I had understood that everything was supposed to be covered with that we weren't going to be out of pocket. So this is very troubling to me.
And much of that was discussed in an open meeting, so I think we certainly have enough to sit down around a table and talk about what our next steps will be.
Since we been informed that they're in the process of getting final bids and numbers. Tomorrow, I believe the report's coming, so I'll follow up and getting a study session sooner than later since the bond committee is discussing allocating funds. We definitely don't want this to be a sinkhole of money that we just keep investing into based on the information we brought. We want to make sure that this is what's good for our kids.
Yeah, I have no judgment on that at this time.
Yes.
I want to have a conversation.
Definitely. So we'll get this sooner than later.
Well, Mrs. C.S. Martinez, then the direction of the board, and I don't know if you want to hear from staff at all, but at this moment, yes, tomorrow we do have more numbers, and there's time frames of the teams, I'm understanding, starting projects. So I'm assuming anything could be stopped at the moment until we have a study session. Is that what we're looking at? Is that, I know you have a lot of study sessions coming up for a variety of things.
I personally would not like to continue on until we discuss it as a board. And again, I would recommend the governing board members go back and look at August 10th minutes. And thank you, Diane, for taking very good minutes, so I appreciate it.
Now, again, I could suggest that at our next board meeting, you had asked for a full breakdown of what was going on over there at the Challenger. Mr. Croto will be in town. He can put something together on what it looks like, what the pieces are, and then we would have the exact costs to possibly, and that might be a frame that you'd want to work on through that, giving the board the opportunity then to go back, as you suggested, and look at the numbers.
Administration, are there any comments you'd like to add?
Madam President, members of the board, unless there's a question asked, I have nothing to add. I mean, work to the pleasure of the board.
So at this time, it sounds to me we need to have an emergency study session because there are plans to continue with construction. Dr. Davidson sent out a way to schedule meetings, so this will probably be a weekday meeting. It doesn't seem to be longer than an hour and a half, and that we have it in a public setting and recorded so the community can hear the conversation as well. And we'll follow up with some dates as soon as possible.
Thank you.
And we're putting a hold on construction until that time, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
I'm not sure about that, because that could end up costing us more money in the long run.
How much money have we already spent on the Challenger Center?
Madam President, members of the board, if you could look at this, the current costs. So we have a PO to the architect. We have a PO, and I think they're either in the middle of the work on a chiller tower, and then fiber over to facility, and that is it. No other that I'm aware of permit or POs that have been issued at this point.
153,000.
Honestly, Mr. Hicks, with the reports coming in tomorrow, how soon can your team create the information to have a discussion with the board?
Madam President, members of the board, we hope all the quotes are coming in tomorrow. There's no guarantee of that, the vendors, and then we do have spring break the following week. So it would be the following week after that that they would be able to work on, make sure they have all the data together.
Well, I personally don't want to continue on until we get the hard numbers, because right now, the numbers are very fluid and they're just going up. So, thanks.
Mrs. Connect, any additional comments?
No, I'm just not sure if we have the authority to stop it at this point. I don't know. I sincerely don't know.
We've already committed to the 153, so we can continue with that part. And then,
Just because it's not an agendized item and
oh,
I don't
that's
know.
right.
I don't know if we have the ability to give direction. What do you think, Mr.
Madam
Vick?
President, members of the board, it's not a voting item.
Okay.
You're correct on that, but but administration does listen to comments that board members make, and we do not have to issue any additional purchase orders from this point forward.
Okay, good.
Okay. Then we will follow up with a date as soon as possible.
We will do that. Thank you.
Moving on to 8.3, District Budget Report for the month of January. This is also available online. The public. 8.4, Report on upcoming meetings and events.
Mrs. Sejar Martinez?
Ms. Connect?
Two things. We just had the Peoria Education Foundation fundraiser, which was fun, but giving away the money is more fun. So the Student Scholarship and Teacher Grant Awards reception is Monday, April 2nd, so we hope people will come out and congratulate our teachers and our students. And then the other item I wanted to bring up, you noted that we all got a doodle for the first meeting with the company that's been hired to help us select a superintendent. And I think we were given 25 dates or whatnot. And the date that was chosen, I was not part of because it's on a Saturday and my Saturdays are busy. And I understand that, and I know you're moving ahead with 4 out of 5. And I'm not happy about it, but I understand it. My question is are we going to be moving ahead doing Saturday meetings moving forward? Because that, in my 11 and a half years, the meeting we had the last Saturday was the first Saturday meeting we've ever had in 11 years. And so I am uncomfortable asking staff members to come in on a weekend, for one, and it is very difficult for me during this time to come in on a weekend. And so if that's going to be the direction of the board, I need to know as much in advance as possible because it's very inconvenient.
It is very challenging to schedule items based on this process. There were a lot of date options, and of the dates that were provided, 4 out of the 5 was the max we could get to attend. I would like to say I could predict what study sessions or events we're going to have during the week or on the weekends, but I can't guarantee that. We have a board that has changed over the past 11 years, and the needs of the district have altered. So with that being said, there's no guarantee of one way or another. We'll just keep doing what we've been doing and solidifying the availability of dates and go from there.
I just want to go on record as saying I'm willing to come in very early and I'm willing to come in after dinner, but I really am hesitant and uncomfortable asking staff members to come in on the weekend.
Well, Mrs. Connect, if I don't come in on Saturday, or if I come in through the week, that it means that I work on Saturday. So for us that work, Saturday is better.
Well, we all
And
work.
we don't get paid, so it is more convenient for some of us to come in on Saturday.
Going forward, we'll continue to do the process as we get the majority of the board members to agree to a date. We'll set it forward, but all options were presented, and this was the majority. Looks like a study session for the Challenger. It'll be shorter, it'll be during the week, so that we can get the ball rolling. But that, I will take that into consideration as we continue to plan. Any additional upcoming dates, events want to be recognized? Ms. Connected, identify spring break. I hope all of you enjoy your time off. Volunteer appreciation event is coming up in April as well. And what is not on here, though, I would like to add, is in April, it's Financial Literacy Month. So, for the community. All right, going forward. 8.5, draft agenda for April 12th, 2018. We have a long list, and now that we have some guidance with the strategic plan, we will continue to plan those accordingly. And again, it will be available online. And number 9, further discussion on agenda items that we've already discussed.
Mrs. Sahar Martinez, I have 2 that I would like to readdress. The first one is a response to Mr. Hicks. Excuse me, the notice I got today said that HB 2460 had passed the Senate, and that is charter schools, vacant buildings, and equipment.
Thank you very much. I'll look into it a little further.
Okay.
Thank you. Committee of the whole.
Okay. Pass the cow, so it's ready to go to the governor. Yeah. That's bad. That's bad. It's bad. Okay. And the second one, also for Mr. Hicks, is just briefly, I don't want to bog anything down, but this surplus property management program administered by the state of Arizona, could you tell us to the degree that we utilize that?
Madam President, members of the board, I apologize. I don't think I can say the degree of,
Okay.
but this is on because we wanted to use it, and when we contacted them, they said, hey, we'd like to recertify you and get your signature. So there's a school, I think, that is looking to purchase some state surplus items or a department, and we held it up until we got the board approval.
So
to do that.
we have been in the past?
We do periodically.
Okay.
It's gone down in the past because when the law changed and allows us to do some online auctioning, we've received more funds through online auctioning of some of our older assets. But back in the day, state surplus used to be the only game in town. It has gone down dramatically, but it is still an option that we utilize.
It was a new concept to me. I just was interested in it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did we ever vote on that one
Yeah,
vote?
vote on it.
Do we need to vote on that one?
Vote on that because it's
Yes.
consent agenda.
Oh, yes, right. You're like, vote. What? Okay.
You're on top
I
of
move
it,
to
Judy.
approve item 5.12.
I second. We have a motion and a second to approve 5.2. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion passes 4-0 and 1 absent. Any other items that would like to be readdressed? Okay, we are at the end of the meeting. Number 10.1, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Aye.
4-0 and 1 absent. Thank you very much for your patience this evening, and enjoy the rest of your week.